Thanks for joining us for Season 7 of the Hospitality Hangout, a hospitality-focused podcast where the founders at Branded Strategic share their insights and bring technology and innovation leaders that are making things happen in the industry we love. My name is Jimmy Frischling, otherwise known as the Finance Guy. I'd like to introduce my partner, Mr. Michael Schatzberg, otherwise known as the Restaurant Guy.
Hey, thanks for that kind introduction, Jimmy. And to all those listening, feel free to call me Shatsy. Together, we are the personalities behind Branded Strategic Hospitality. We work at the intersection of hospitality, food service, technology, innovation, and capital. And I got to tell you, Jimmy, we got a great show. It is so exciting to be here for season 7. Jimmy, is that 7
Mickey
years?
Mantle season.
Is that 7 years?
7, not 7 years.
Years.
Seven,
it's not 7 years?
7 seasons.
Oh, so 7's it.
Yeah.
That's 7 weeks?
Yeah, well, we squeezed a little more than 7 weeks, a little less than 7 years. We're making it happen, you know. I feel like George Costanza.
Well, I got to tell you, Jimmy, I'm thinking about, we have been traveling like mad dogs. We are all over the place, and I am super excited because we are headed to Food on Demand in Vegas for another fantastic show at the Mirage. And that is just going to be another great show. So wanted to just mention, anybody going to be at Food on Demand, make sure you find Jimmy and I. Jimmy, the only thing I wanted to talk to you a little about is this incredible marketplace that we've built. I don't know if you heard anything about this.
I don't know, but it sounds like a great big moment. Hey, here's one for you. Boom. Let's talk
Jimmy,
about the marketplace.
I got to tell you, we are signing up technology and innovation onto this marketplace every day. 5, 6, 7, 10 companies. We have over 400 and something companies now on the marketplace. If you're an operator looking for a solution to help you solve some of the most pressing problems facing the hospitality industry, get onto the branded marketplace right now. It doesn't cost anything, Jimmy. It's absolutely free to go onto the branded marketplace and find some of the most incredible solutions. And I got to tell you, Jimmy, I'm loving it. Customers are loving it. Vendors are loving it. It's a real great connectivity point. So that's all I wanted to say about that.
Free. How do we make money?
Jimmy, we're doing volume. When we hit 1,000, I'm pretty sure somehow
we don't charge. We make money on the volume of money we don't charge. I got it.
Yeah.
And for all you Easter egg hunters out there, I know there's so many of you who've been following us closely, watching our social media. When it comes to the marketplace, one word for you. Boom. All right.
Boom, baby.
Boom. All right, let's move on with the show because we got a fantastic guest and we want to give him the proper respect and airtime. We're excited, not just on today's episode, but to launch Season 7. Guest number 1, Season 7, our friend, our partner, Mr. Tony Smith, CEO and co-founder of Restaurant365. I cannot think of a better guest to kick off the new Mickey Mantle season. So, Tony, we'll have you take the lead. Please give us a little background or a quick update about yourself and, of course, introduce Restaurant365.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me, guys. Season 7. So I did not know this was season 7. I
didn't either, Tony.
Yeah, I thought you were clamoring to get me on, but seven seasons in. Okay, I see my priority here. Definitely
We've been trying
excited
for 4 seasons.
Yeah. No, I am excited to be with you guys. This is going to be fun today. I'm out here in Orange County in Southern California, surrounded by women. That's my wife and 4 daughters, by the way.
Nice. Good recovery. I like it.
Yeah. And I'm the CEO at Restaurant365 and loving it. So just to tell you a little bit about who we are, that we are a restaurant management software that is all inclusive. So we've got accounting, inventory, recipes, scheduling, payroll, HR. We have a ton of modules, forecasting, BI. And so we've set out really to put a lot of functionality all in one spot, and also to help restaurants realize this technology dream of the connected restaurant, right? Where all of their tech is in one spot, or else it seamlessly talks to each other. And so that's really what we're setting out to do.
I love it. You know, before we take a deeper dive, because there's a lot, as Jimmy likes to say, a lot of wood to chop. Here. But before we get into it, I'd like to really understand what makes Tony tick. Who is Tony? And how did he get to Restaurant365? So give me let's go back to 1960 something or 1970 something. Talk to me.
All right. Well, 1970 something would be the time I joined the planet. And Yeah, after that, we grew up, of course, it was earlier times, so not everyone had a computer. I didn't have one in the home growing up. And so I really was afraid of them. I thought they were things for nerds at the time. And I never dreamed that I would be working on them or working in software down the road. But in college, I thought I should probably make it part of my major just because you're going to have to use them somewhere in the workplace. And so, I graduated with business management and information systems, never dreaming again that I would actually use it in my career. But shockingly, to my naive self, what you study in college is often what people want to hire you for. So my first job out of college was working in software. And I was doing that with a couple other guys, John, Moody, and Morgan Harris. And the three of us were the ones that eventually, this is now a number of years out of college, eventually decided to start Restaurant365 together.
I love it. And go figure what you learn in college or studying college. Someone might say, well, it sounds like I should talk to you about that as opposed to something alternative. Who knew? If I could only tell myself as a freshman.
Well, what'd you study, Jimmy?
Political science. I was a government major, religion minor. So clearly, the logical step was finance and hospitality tech and innovation. Clearly, that was the move.
You just want to be a Renaissance man.
Exactly. I wanted my Bachelor of Arts, my liberal arts degree. Here we go. All right. Listen, we're back in trade shows, fully in the swing, I should say, in trade show season. Schatz already mentioned food on demand, which we're excited about. And listen, we love when we go to conferences playing our favorite conference game. Every show we pick a hot topic, and whenever a speaker, a panelist, or one of the folks mentions the word, Schatz and I lift our imaginary glass. Sometimes it's not imaginary, but we lift our imaginary glass and we take an imaginary sip of our cocktail of choice. So, Tony, in your opinion, at the next conference we're going to, it could be FOD, it could be the one after. What's going to be the hot topic? What are we going to be lifting our glass to of the buzzword that's going to come up the most?
Well, whether you're tired of it or not, it's going to be labor shortage or food cost.
Labor shortage, food shortage. There it is.
That's so boring. Can't we come up with something more interesting?
It's not boring. It's very important, Shatsy. This is critical stuff.
Okay.
It can't be delivery all the time, Shatsy.
You want him to be talking about Elon Musk and Twitter?
No. Let's talk. I agree. Labor shortage and cost. I agree. The supply side. Tony, tell us why.
Well, it's become so hot because obviously commodities are tough to come by for the restaurants right now, and where the focus during COVID was so heavy on sales channels. How can we get more money out of the same restaurant, produce more sales? Now that focus is shifting coming out of that COVID slowdown to how do we do this efficiently, effectively? How can we afford to do it? Because sales have actually been moving up. And so I think that's what we're really seeing the focus heavily on, which I love. This is like my day in the sun because our company has been working to solve that for the last decade. And it has always been a topic, but not the topic. And right now it is the topic.
Wow. Thanks for that, Tony. I got to tell you, as operators, we have been a customer of Compete and Restaurant365 across our brands for as long as you guys have been around.
Long-time customer, first-time caller, Schatz? Long-time customer, first-time caller?
Long-time customer, yeah. I got to tell you, I spoke to Tony a while back, and I told him, Harry sold us our first system on Compete, I don't know, 20 years ago, 18 years ago, whenever it was. And so let's just talk a little bit about that little acquisition that happened not too long ago. I think it's about a year ago. You guys bought Compete. That was really the competing software in the market. It was Restaurant365 versus Compete on the back-end accounting. So give us a little bit about that acquisition. How's that going? Why'd you do it? How's it going? Talk to us.
Yeah. So, we knew them over the years. They'd been around a lot longer than when we had begun, and they were established. And so was See2It. And then, a few years down the road, we saw Compete and See2It join forces. And they were together, two solid brands. And, where we are in our life cycle as a business, we felt like it was a good time to bring all of those together because of the complementary nature, because they have so many great customers. And we felt like we would be able to put all of the technology in one spot so people easily know where to go and they're getting a ton of value. So how is the acquisition going? It is fantastic. No buyer's remorse here. I'm so glad.
Can I quote you on that? Can I quote you on that fantastic line?
Yes.
All right, Jimmy. That's breaking news. The acquisition is going fantastic.
I think that's our first breaking news on season 7. Acquisition, good. There we go. No more.
There you go. People told me it was a nightmare, to do the M&A, but no, I've loved it. There's so many talented people from their side that joined us, so many awesome customers in the fold. And then on the product side, we've been bringing a lot of the technology together. We've been advancing the tech from there. And yeah, I'm loving it.
Bam. I like it a lot. I shouldn't say, sorry, I'm not going to say bam. I'm going to say boom.
Boom. Boom.
Listen, I want to talk data. Data. Tony, I believe you now have over 28,000 restaurants in the R365 family. I mean, if you guys could see me right now, I got my pinky up to the corner of my mouth, 28,000 restaurants. That's a lot of customers that all have a great deal of performance data. How are your customers performing? How are they doing, in terms of being, back? Are they back to pre-pandemic levels? What can you tell us in terms of what's going on in your restaurant customer world?
Yeah, it's been really helpful to be able to pool all of this customer data together. We do have in the 30,000s of restaurants, and so it's a large group across the U.S. in all different sizes. Single units, really major chains, mid markets, different concepts. And what we've seen is that when you average it all together, sales wise, they're definitely doing better than they were pre-pandemic. So you compare 2019 same day to something in 2022, and we're sitting about 10% higher on sales than they were doing in 2019 at the same store. So that's been exciting. Even, you see the dips when there's variants of COVID, but even this time around when Omicron came up in December, it came down to still about 2% above normal. So it didn't even dip down below normal, where earlier in the pandemic, it was dropping off a cliff. And then each time a variant would come, it would drop. So that was a really encouraging sign, is to see that with this last variant, it actually stayed above normal. And now it's marching back up higher again. As an industry as a whole, the restaurant sales dollars are not as high as they were pre-pandemic because 90 to 100,000 went out of business. But for a restaurant that stayed open, that's what we're seeing. And but we are also seeing an uptick with those sales. We're seeing an uptick in food cost, which we notice around 12%, labor somewhere around 10%, that things are getting more expensive for them right now.
I know we talked a little about, and you just touched on a little bit again about the increase in labor, the increase in food cost. I mean, all major issues for operators. You also just mentioned that you've seen an average of a 10% increase in sales on your 28,000 customers. So let's talk about that. So our sales are going up 10%, but now our menu prices are up 7%. Labor is up, 10, 12%. Food cost is up 10, 12%. So what kind of things, or is Restaurant365, or what kind of tools, or what are you guys doing to help restaurants relieve some of these operational strains? Their sales are going up, but also their costs are going up at the same time. So that's not a great match. I know I'm jumping into finance guy a little bit, and I should stay to restaurant guy.
Yeah, a little bit. I feel a little crowded over here, but I like.
I apologize.
I like your question. It's a good question. I like it.
But, so what kind of tools do you have in the arsenal over at 365 to help operators deal with some of this? Great that sales are growing up, but labor and food costs too.
Yeah. Hey, Jimmy, I'm glad you didn't tell Schatz, stay in your lane or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
Stay in my lane.
So, no, I think that it starts with the right forecast. You've got to be able to forecast what you're going to be doing in your restaurant in the coming days, week, by day part. You want to know those things. And the better the forecast, the more accurately then you can shoot for your employee schedule as well as the menu items you're going to be selling. And so the ingredients you need to order. And really, when you get down to honing in on those order quantities, getting suggested quantities because you're forecasted, you're going to keep that food cost low. You're going to have less waste. And the same thing on the labor side, of course. If you can get a suggested schedule based on the forecast, then you're going to have the right employees at the right time. You're not going to have a lot of overtime. You're not going to have a lot of extra hours. And those are things that we help restaurants squarely with in our tool.
Schatz, watch this. Watch this.
So we're not just guessing how we're going to do this week.
Watch this, Schatzy. I like, Tony, you talked about the importance of forecasting. How does a restaurant group do better forecasting? What do they need to do better forecasting?
Yeah, well, I mean, they need to use a tool for it. And I think that you look at what have you been doing across various time frames. So you look at the last 8 weeks. you look at this same time a year ago, and you bring a number of those together. You can average it out. You can add pieces in, such as, a big event's coming up. Maybe you're a restaurant near Angel Stadium here. Then on game days, that's going to shoot up. And so you start to add in all of those factors. And with our system, it crunches those numbers and gives you a suggested forecast by day part.
There you go. I like it. I think you need R365 and you need their quality and high class data. You need the data. Okay, listen, thanks for that. I want to talk about the connected restaurant. You brought that up earlier. I love the expression. We will probably borrow it. We will give attribution, at least I will. Schatzy will probably claim it as his own.
Well, that's my own. I make that my own.
But it's been nothing short of awesome. Really, to see how operators have now come to embrace technology. Necessity is the mother of all innovation, and the pandemic, we like to say, has really changed nothing in terms of our industry, but accelerated everything. See, Schatz, I got that into season 7. We've been running with that for the last couple of years, certainly since the pandemic. But it doesn't mean it can't still be really confusing for owners and operators. So with so much kind of technology to choose from, what role is R365 playing to help the learning curve for operators that may be feeling, tech fatigue?
Yeah, that is why we started. So, I told you about when we started. It's back in 2011, but the
it was
why
1970 something.
Oh, yeah. 1970 something is why I started.
Yes.
Yeah. And so we really wanted to solve that for restaurants. We looked at this huge industry, and there were so many tools. It was crazy for a restaurateur to be buying 10 tools to run their business because they're not tech people. So they didn't really understand how to connect them together. And so that was really the goal for us, was make this simple and make data immediately accessible. And so in order to do that, you need all your data in one place. So we wanted to accomplish as much as possible with our tool. So, hey, you could do accounting in it, you can do inventory, you do scheduling, you get these different tools in one spot. Anything we don't do, that's where the connected restaurant phrase comes from. Anything we don't do, we're going to seamlessly connect with. So, for example, on point of sale, I think we have 110 point of sale integrations that we pull data from every day. We have a lot of vendors, hundreds of vendors that we pull data from. And so we just try to bring everything into one spot so that they don't have to go very many places, because we understand restaurateurs are restaurateurs. They're not IT people.
We're busy, man. We're busy running restaurants, for crying out loud,
right.
Feeding the world. Hey, listen, I appreciate that. Before we move on, I just want to talk about something that's incredible. I don't know if Jimmy knew this. I don't know if our listeners knew this, but this is breaking news. R365 was named Best Startup Employer by Forbes. Don't know exactly when or what year, but it was named that, and that's important. That's really big news. So I just want to talk about a little about corporate culture, because if you guys were named Best Employer by Forbes, that's a pretty big deal.
Schatzy, by the way, that was last year.
Thank you.
That's not like ancient history. That was that was
back
ago.
That wasn't back in 2011 when we had 3 employees and they asked all 3 of them if we were good.
Yes.
So this is very recent. So this is breaking news. You were Best Startup by Forbes. That's a big deal. Why is a strong company culture? Why does it matter? Why is that so important? And how how is it so important to restaurants? Give us a little background on that and talk to us about the corporate culture over at R365.
Great. Yeah. Well, thanks for recognizing us with that breaking news there from last year. I love it.
Did I say this is season 7? Did I remind you this is season 7? Okay.
I'm with you. We care a ton about culture here internally, and I do think that translates over and matters for restaurants. If you look at us at Restaurant365, really as a CEO, what's your job? It's whatever you want, but it's whatever you need to do to make the business succeed. And for me personally, I've chosen 4 areas of focus. And my number one area, I prioritize them. I've named company culture. I think that is the most important thing that I can do in our business to help us to be successful, because the culture isn't just about having cool soda and treats in the break room and that type of thing. It's across the board about what you're passionate about, what value you're adding. Are you giving people autonomy in their job? So there's a lot of things that we look at internally that we're constantly striving for. And with that, it's been great because right now there's been huge turnover in the technology industry, developers moving from company to company. And we've been able to stay well below that, where our turnover rate is more like 3%. And right now turnover rates are in the double digits in general. So
Wow.
that's something we're passionate about. And I could talk all day about our culture, but then you guys would run out of time and
we go right into season 8.
Yeah, you'd be season 8. And so let me move on. Why is it important for restaurants? Before the pandemic, people would, if I was at a show and they might ask me, what do you see in the future for the restaurant industry? Back then, I would say, I think in a few years, you're going to see restaurants caring more about their culture. You're going to see them showing employees that it's not just a part-time job. It's not just something you do in high school, but this is a career. And they start to really show value and benefits to them. And so I'm really happy. I think we're seeing more of that. And I think it's going to change the way that people think about working at restaurants.
I like it, and I agree, and I think you have seen a tremendous change in the way restaurant on the corporate side of the restaurant world is looking at their employees and the corporate culture and benefits and things like that, and workplace conditions, et cetera. So I think you're 100% spot on, and I think it's fantastic. All right, we're going to Talking Back right now. This is a new segment. It's an old segment, but new for me, okay? So why we love to talk on the podcast, nobody likes to talk more than Jimmy, maybe me a little bit, but Jimmy does a great job talking. We like to ask our guests to give us a couple of questions. So let's kick off Talking Back, where we offer you a chance to ask us a question. Nothing is off the table here. Anything you want to ask, Tony, the mic is yours.
Okay, great. Well, you said a couple, so maybe I will do 2. Let's see here. I'll do a fun one. I'll do a serious one. Okay.
Did I say a couple? I heard one.
First. Yeah, you're getting 2. Fun first.
Getting 2.
Would you rather find a bug in your food or a human hair?
I'm going bug.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think bug. I'd probably just eat the bug. Yeah, I like the bug.
Yeah.
I want bug. And actually, I'd really like to find a whole bug, because that way I'll assume I haven't eaten any of it. If I find half a bug, I'll be concerned that I've already consumed some bug. I prefer bug over human hair.
Isn't that interesting? I mean, are people that gross, right? That I would choose the same thing. We all want a bug in our food. Like, yes. How gross are people? Okay, next.
A hair, I think, would definitely ski people out. Yeah. Bug, not so much.
Yeah. Okay, I guess it's a bug. That's fine. It's a fly. Okay, next one. You're 7 years into the podcast. Who's been your worst guest? No, I'm just joking. Don't answer that.
You don't have to look far, Tony.
It's season 7 opener. Yeah,
season 7 over.
Yep. My first and last time here. No, my question is this: you have had 7 years in it. You've talked to a lot of great folks, and you have a lot of experience in the restaurant industry. What for you would be the ideal pieces of a restaurant software? Like, give me something to aspire to in the coming years. What are all the pieces you wish were in one spot?
Oh, I like it. And you know why I really love that question? Because that is teed up. That is teed up for the restaurant guy named Michael Schatzberg.
Wow, that is a tough one. But I think the obvious answer, maybe it's not obvious, but I suspect that when we look at the point of sale system and look at the point of sale system and what it does, and then all the rest of the tech, and they're all kind of disconnected. So if you ask me, it seems to me that this one central place should be where I take the orders, pay, my accounts payable, my accounts receivable. The whole thing should be the schedule. It should just be one thing. Everything.
You need a connected restaurant. You need a connected restaurant.
So it should just be one thing, and it should all be connected, and that would be it. That just, so Restaurant365 should be the point of sale. It should be where I take my orders, process the orders, print the orders, get the payments, do my scheduling, do my forecasting, all in one spot. Restaurant365 should buy toast and that'll be the end of it. What do you think?
Schatzy. Tony said he has 110 POS integrations. That's as much as anyone we know in the industry. And you now want to put him in competition with 110 of his key partners?
I think I just made an incredible marriage here, Jimmy. 28,000 restaurants. How about this? How about Restaurant365, Toast, and Square all merge? How about that?
You got a better,
and Micros and NCR.
You
How about
got a better chance of having Coke and Pepsi come together and creating.
And that's not a bad idea either, Jimmy. We're making headlines.
We better move on. He's getting crazier by the moment.
Yeah, I don't know what you had for breakfast, man. You get a little nutty, but I do like the question, Tony. And I'd say the following: the point of sale. I always think of the point of sale like my cable channel, my cable service. I really want to have everything embedded in my universal cable box. I want to have that one bill, and then I want the best functionality or the best stuff I can have in that one, let's say, box and one remote. I think the industry continues to look for bundled solutions. And while it's not a one size fits all, high end and full service and casual, full service casual, quick serve, et cetera. There's so many different ways one is going to experience food and beverage. But I think at the end of the day, the operator would like a as seamless and bundled and integrated a solution as possible. So I think the fact that you're in with 110 POSs, that's a great place for R365. And my sense is there's a lot of functionality that really needs to find its way into the POS in whatever seamless or integrated manner, because the operator doesn't want to have 40 tech line items to maintain and train. Right. They want it to go through one channel if possible. But again, Shatsy, merging, he can tell you to go buy Toast and Square, but I'm going to tell you, I
thought I was coming up with some breaking news.
Yes.
And that R365 has just put a hostile bid in for Toast and Square.
Yes, and for clarity, since this FCC violations here, that is not breaking news. That is not even news. That is not happening. Okay, listen, I'm very excited now because I took 7 seasons, but I'm getting a new segment. I got to tell you, I got a little bounce in my step. I even helped create this segment by accident, of course. Our producer, Coach Julie, came up with it. But the new segment, it is our favorite restaurant moments. I recently shared with the members of the branded team one of my kind of favorite restaurant moments. Actually, it was with Shatsy. We had just opened up one of our Big Daddy restaurants on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. I was meeting Shatsy for brunch. Place was jamming. We were loving it. Place was booming early in those first few weeks or months. Shatsy and I grabbed 2 seats at the counter, and very casually, Shatsy turned to a server and said, "Listen, just bring us out the next 2 mistakes. Okay, I know the place is slammed, it's jamming. We don't want to cause any time and attention. We want to take any time and attention. Just bring us your next 2 mistakes." And sure enough, within less than X minutes, 2 perfectly imperfect dishes came our way. There's always a mistake, especially when you're first opening. Put mayo on something shouldn't have been there. Maybe put some coleslaw on something. Anyway, I love the 2 perfectly imperfect dishes came our way. So that got me thinking, what are some other funny or interesting stories that our guests may have? So Tony, you're kicking off. You're the first one to ever been asked this question on the podcast. What's your favorite restaurant story?
Well, I hope I have a good enough answer so you keep the segment. Let's see what we got here. Well, one time I traveled a few years ago to Michigan. I was going to go to the University of Michigan, see my favorite college football team play theirs. I wanted to go to the big house, very excited, first time there. And I love BYU. I had my BYU gear on. We go to the stadium. Our team loses, I think 31-0. Okay, wasn't a great showing for flying all the way to Michigan. So afterwards, we're wandering around, very dejected. We look like Charlie Brown, heads are down, and we did not know where to go. We were just kind of walking around campus. But sure enough, when you're down, where do you end up? You end up at a restaurant, right? So we walked into a restaurant and looking to cheer ourselves up and sat down, and it was pretty funny because everyone there was a Michigan fan, and they all knew how embarrassed we all must feel. And so immediately the waitress comes up to our table and just says, "I'm sorry, guys." She just apologizes. You know what? That's great hospitality. Very caring. We had people in there that day offering to pay for our appetizers. We had all kinds because of just how embarrassing it was. And I just remember that. It just makes me think restaurants are such a place of community that people can get together, you know, even if a second ago we were cheering against each other. What a great place for people to be.
It's like Cheers.
Yeah, that's right.
As a Jet fan, I feel your pain because as I walk around any city with a Jet jersey on, no matter what time of year it is, I generally get the same response. I'm so sorry. So I understand. I understand how you feel there for sure. But that is hospitality at its finest. You know, I'll people play some beers.
You guys have our old quarterback now, Zach Wilson. Hopefully he can perform for you.
We are hoping some good things.
Oh, I like it, Schatz. Although I got to tell you, I swear, Schatz, somehow this season your kids became big LA Ram fans. I don't know how that happened. All of a sudden.
I don't know. I don't know. You win a Super Bowl. That's what happens.
Yeah, all of a sudden Ram fans. All right, Tony, I like the way you played the favorite restaurant story. I think we're going to have it back next week. All right, our crystal ball moment, a chance where we ask our guests to put on their Kreskin or Miss Cleo hat and predict the future. How do you see restaurants, Tony, and dining 2 years from now in relation to hospitality and technology?
Okay. Well, 2 years isn't too far out. So I guess we're not talking flying cars. That seems to be the answer for the future most of the time. Okay. Pizza robots, maybe? I could see a few of those in the back of the house even then.
Yep.
But my little Caesar's job in high school of taking pizzas out of the oven, maybe get replaced by a robot some of the time. I think what you'd really see though, if I'm looking seriously 2 years down the road, I think you might see restaurant technology spend be about 4% of revenue. Right now, it's more like 3% of revenue. I know that's probably not that exciting to hear or talk about, but here's why.
And what's the industry average? I'm not the industry average. What is business average?
Yeah, business average in other industries is around 6%.
Right.
It's about 6. Restaurant industry is around 3. So it's about half. And I think you go up to 4. And basically, back when we started Restaurant365, it was more like 2. It was even lower. And so I think we'll see more solutions that drive more adoption. The better features you have, it's actually adding value to the restaurant, then it makes sense to pay for it. It doesn't make sense to pay for it just because technology is cool. It's when it adds value. And I think we're really seeing some feature-rich applications. I think you're seeing some consolidation of these products across the industry that's going to make it easier to use all in one place. And so that's really what I think we're going to see. And specifically, where are they going to spend? I think a heavy amount of that is going to be around employees, the hiring, retaining, and paying of employees. I think you're going to see employees getting paid daily in a lot of restaurants by then. I better stop. But those are things I think you're going to see.
I like it. Hey, Schatz, by the way, Tony, very smart guy. You know what? If we think he's right, you know what you and I should do?
No.
We should focus on food, hospitality, tech, and innovation. We should focus.
Maybe you should
have
a podcast about it.
We should lean into that.
Yes.
All right, just my thought.
I love it. I like it a lot.
All right.
I got to tell you, we're going to have Tony back. Mark your calendars. April 26, 2024. And we will check and see just how his crystal ball moment went. All right, listen. Jimmy, you had your segment. We'll see how it goes. But I think we all know how great the Branded Quickfire is. This is the best segment. Nobody questions that. So I'm going to ask Tony 5 lightning round questions. Don't think too hard. Just give us the first answer that comes to your mind. Tony, are you ready?
Hit me.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
I think we're going Frank Sinatra, probably The Way You Look Tonight, or 90s rock like Jimmy Eat World.
Don't get Jimmy started now with Sinatra. Where are you getting dinner from tonight?
Tonight, I am taking my 7-year-old to buy a softball bat. So if she's picking somewhere with a drive-through, probably.
Is that like Dick's Sporting Goods? You got to go for that?
Yeah.
What's your favorite food city in the world?
I'm going to say Charleston, South Carolina.
Very up and coming. Everyone's talking Charleston. I haven't been, but I'm going to have to get over there. Where is your favorite place to travel?
Oh, that one's easy. I love the giant redwoods up at the top of California, those ancient trees that are about 400 feet tall. That's my favorite.
Okay. So we are all parents here, right?
Yes.
Yep.
If you were to challenge, we are all parents here.
Yes.
If you were to challenge Jimmy or I to a dad joke showdown, who would you have better odds of beating?
Ooh, I am a dad joke connoisseur, so
You're the one about
yeah. So I'm going to say both of you combined.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He's taking us down.
I'm confident. Yeah.
Yeah, Shatsy, when we bring him back in 2 years, we're gonna each have to tell our best dad joke, and we'll let the listeners. You know what? Tony might beat me, but Shats, I'm convinced I would beat you. So
Jimmy, you have like this. You
confidence,
stable. No, you have a stable of like old jokes that you like dig up. I don't even know how you remember. You remember these jokes like your dad told you, like from 1960 something. Like you just.
It was 1960 something.
Classic jokes that you always have.
I got to tell you, 1960s was a great dad joke decade. Fantastic dad joke decade.
Some really good ones there. Exactly.
Good,
well, I'm going to tell you,
great music, great dad jokes. Okay,
Jimmy, you still beat me. You still beat me on that question number 5 on the quick fire.
All right, I'll take it. Listen, Tony, want to thank you so much for joining us on the podcast and for sharing all these all your insights. We appreciate the work that you and the team at R365 do for the industry, and we think you guys are on a great run. And congratulations again on the recognition as one of the the great companies to be working for by Forbes. Well deserved. We do hear a lot of really good things about you, and again, we appreciate you joining us for the podcast.
Hey, wait, Tony, before you move on, Jimbo, sorry. If anybody out there is looking for an incredible accounting, full stack accounting, payables, the whole shebang solution for your restaurant, if you're still using a baby system, no disrespect to some of the QuickBooks fans out there, but how do I get in touch with you guys?
I'd say our website's probably the best.
Yeah,
restaurant365.com.
Go check it out, guys. I have been using it in our restaurants for, I'm telling you, as long as they've been around and even longer. And it is the best solution out there for all things accounts payable and stuff like that, receivable, all that. Sorry about that, Jimmy. Go ahead.
That's all right, Shatz.
Just wanted to give a little plug. Tony, let me just give you my address for the check that you're going to send me for that plug.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the scripted closing is sponsored by QuickBooks, and if you need
gonna
books,
pull my license, by the way, because we use QuickBooks.
if you need books, you need QuickBooks. Okay, listen. If you want to get in touch with Tony directly, besides going to the website he suggested, you can reach out to the podcast team at podcast@brandedstrategic.com, and we'd be happy to make the connection. To our listeners, we want to thank you so much for tuning in. We are thrilled to be launching into season 7. We know there are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and we really do appreciate that you choose to make this one of the ones you're checking out and subscribing to.
None that have guests like this. You don't get CEO.
You don't get guests like this. Listen, and speaking of guests like this, next week we'll be welcoming our friend Mr. Brian Solar from Square, the big guy himself. And I'm telling you, if you've met Brian, he's a very intimidating.
When are they going to go from Square? When do we got to start calling it Block? When do you got to say Block?
You know what, Chatsy? Next week, you can ask Brian Solar, and you can ask him that really insightful question of when is Square going to change its name to Block. Finally, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any of the exciting guests we have coming up in this season, and better yet, and invite a friend to hang out with us the next time. So until then, Tony, with appreciation and thank you, this is Jimmy Frischling, your finance guy, signing off and passing it back to Shatsy.
This is Shatsy, aka Restaurant Guy. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Tony, thank you so much. I appreciate your time today.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.
See ya.
Cheers.